let's talk art fairs and how to succeed as an artist during an art fair, how to be successful artist of the fair. The first time I went as an artist selling art on an art fair was during the Dries Art Week in London, one of the major global art events in the world, and it was pretty cool. And I think I can probably teach you a thing or two that I picked up there and learned along the way. So let's give you some. This video is going to be 3 tips for selling art during an art fair. So let's give you some tips. But first things first, a couple of weeks ago, and this connects to this whole video, to this whole selling art game. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a book fair, secondhand books, and there was one vendor who had a lot of art books going on, like 50 to 100 art books, and I was intrigued and I was captivated. Secondhand books, art books, perhaps I can make a nice deal over here and find some really cool art books. And I couldn't find the prices. I couldn't really find anything. And so I asked him, where can I find the prices? How much is it for these books? And he says, yeah, it's on the first page in the right corner. And if it's not on there, then I know the prices out of my head and you have to ask me. And I think by myself, you know the prices out of your head? You're actually gonna make me believe that you know the prices of, like, you have hundreds of books here, that you know the prices out of your head. That's what I was thinking in my head, of course. And of course he didn't know the prices. He wanted to just eyeball it. He wanted to just like, okay, this guy looks like this. He might have whatever. And out of that interaction, he wanted to gamble how much I would be willing to spend on a book. And I didn't trust that. I didn't trust that as a buyer. And that's normal. Nobody would just randomly trust a guy to, like, that's not how it works. And as a result, I didn't bought anything. And so this is what happens on art fairs as well. A lot of artists, when they're going to art fairs, showing their own work, they have the prices of the big pieces, but a lot of times, especially with the smaller pieces, the sketches, the small works, they don't really have the price and they want to eyeball it. They don't have a list of all available works of all there, that they don't have that. And so they just eyeball it around. As a result, people don't trust that. And so this is the first tip for artists. This is the first advice for young artists. Have your prices ready. Set all your prices in advance. Don't eyeball it based on the person or the interaction or whatever. Don't do that. And as an artist during an art fair, you want to stand out. Here's a promise from me to you. More than 50% of artists don't have a list of all their available works. For some reason, they just postpone that. One of the easiest ways to stand out is to have a list. And then you don't have to eyeball it. Somebody asks, they're scanning through your drawings or whatever, and they can ask. Like, hey, how much is it for this? Give them a list. Give them something structured and organized. For some reason, a lot of artists out there, they don't have a lot of structure and organization. And I'm definitely one of those. But I have a list. Now, there are basically 3 reasons for artists not having that list. Reason number 1, you're not aware of how to price your art. You just simply don't really know what the different tactics are, what the different angles are, what the different mindsets and psychologies are to price your art, and what the different goals are with each of those tactics. In that case, watch one of my videos. Number 2, you're not comfortable with selling your original art. You just don't really know, and so as a result of that, you postpone all of those things. You postpone everything that has to do with sales so that you don't have to deal with that. You want to postpone it and push it forward. Number 3, the third reason why people don't have that price list set is probably a combination of those two, and basically boils down to the fact that you did not watch one of my videos on pricing your art or how to sell art online or offline or anything like this. Just watch one of them. Yeah, okay, that would be cool. Anyway, so let's go to the second tip for young artists. Tips for selling art during an art fair. My second advice for upcoming artists would be it's actually going against all advice, all of it, throughout the whole world that you can imagine. Every art magazine, every person that you ask, every blog, every book on how to become a successful artist, whatever, all of them will have one of the following two advices. When going to an art fair, always price your art and hang it next to the art so that people can see. That's advice number one, because they say there are people who are not comfortable with asking a price, and you would miss out on them otherwise. Yeah. And the second one that you read often is never put a price next to your art, because if you don't put it there, then you push people in asking the price, and you can get towards that interaction, and you can own it there, you know. And so basically those two advices that you hear often, they are contradicting one another. The truth is that both of them are wrong and both of them are right. It depends on you, the person, the artist that is standing in front there. If you're a person that has an insane amount of soft skills, you're just like, your soft skills are twice as good as mine, which is very plausible, by the way, then you can own it there. You know, you can, whoever comes and asks you, you can always make them feel very, very comfortable. You're that type of person that just interacts with people, and they're chillax, they're easy to go. Like you're that person then, and you're very comfortable with going and approaching towards people. So everybody who looks interested on your stand, you're just going towards them. You're making a joke. You're like the whole thing. Like yeah. In that case, you can do that. You can put art there without a price. Why? Because you're making them comfortable, and they will eventually ask, and then you have that leverage. You have that extra leverage in your sales game that you can harvest. And so that's going to be a very good tactic for you. If you, on the other hand, are very like shy, and you just like you're introverted, then you probably should be putting prices next to your art. That's just a very good tactic for you, because you're going to be you're not going to do that, which is fine. You know, like there are successful artists come in two types. You have introverted successful artists, and you have extroverted successful artists. There's no one is better than the other. But you have to understand yourself and know who you are, and then know which tactics apply to you, and not just randomly follow some advice on some kind of blog. You know, like those advices are oftentimes, or should oftentimes, be personalized. By the way, a little side advice for artists starting out. One of the best approaches you can do during an art fair is making a joke. You know, like when you're making a joke, then people naturally feel very comfortable. Naturally, they just they let their guards down, and you can really interact and really stand out. You know, humor is one of the biggest, not one of the biggest, like it's just a very decent tactic and a very decent skill to own when you're standing on an art fair. And luckily, your opening approach, you can think about that. You know, you can actually think about that and test different stuff out, and like it's not that hard, even if you're not funny. I'm not a funny guy at all. Not a funny guy at all, but I can assure you that my opener makes people laugh 30-40% of the time. And I'm not funny at all. By the way, here's my opener. Here's what I always say. This is not always what I used to say when I was standing there alone. Was the following thing. I would give them a couple of just 30 seconds or something watching, and then I would approach them. Now, if you're gonna hear it, it's gonna sound probably silly, but trust me, if you perform it in reality, it actually makes them laugh. So, so I would approach them, and I would just as simple as this. I would say, yeah, if you have any questions, just ask me. Otherwise, I'm basically standing here for no reason whatsoever, you know? And then I would back off a little bit, and because it's self-deprecating, it's kind of putting myself there a little bit lower. It has some funniness, some humor to it, and depending on how you present it, how you give it, it actually makes them laugh, you know? Like, it actually makes them laugh. And then from there on, they can talk with you, because art can be very intimidating, especially for people on those art fairs during, for example, the Friese Art Week in London. That's not only art people, you know. Most people that come there have no relationship with art. They don't really know anything about art, and they just want to have some kind of piece for their home, and they're a little bit intimidated. They don't really dare to ask, because they might come over as somebody who's not smart, somebody doesn't know anything about art, all of that stuff. And so it's very intimidating, and you want to make them feel at home. You want to make them feel comfortable. You want to just bring them at ease. Humor is one of the best ways to do that. You can steal that opener, by the way. You can steal it. I don't really care. I'm probably not gonna be standing there alone anymore anyway, so... Okay, last one. How to succeed as an artist during an art fair. How to be that successful artist on the fair. Now, the last tip is one that you probably don't really hear a lot, but it's one of the most important ones. It's one that I did not follow all the way back years ago when I was standing there in that art fair myself. Now, it's one that is created by the banking world. The banking world created something to allow people to buy stuff with money they did not have, or they don't have, because they really want it. And the banking world made it super easy for people to just buy stuff. They don't even need the money, you know, like, that's how easy it is to buy stuff in this world. And so I don't necessarily agree with that. I actually don't really know if it's that good or bad or whatever, but I do know that if it exists, you should take advantage of it. I'm talking about credit cards. I'm talking about payment systems. My third tip for selling art is allowing people to buy with credit cards. You need to make that available. And it's not that hard. Go on Google, search online how to do it. I'm not going to explain it in this video, but it's not that hard. And it's going to be a real advantage for you, because the truth is that, especially in those independent art fairs, chances are that you're going to be the only artist having that credit card availability. Smart. Do that. And also, like, of course, PayPal and all of that stuff, but think about that in advance. How are you going to receive payments? Not only is it important to have, it's also important to, especially in the beginning, as a beginner artist, to think about those things, to let your brain go there, to fantasize about that, so that you're more comfortable when it happens. Thinking about the payment systems is probably one of the best advices for artists starting out that I can give. Yeah. There is one more thing that I want you to do right now, and that's gonna build on top of this video. It's to check out how to price your art in order to attract art galleries. Why do I want you to check out that video? Because that video covers one other part of art fairs. A lot of artists, probably 95% of artists, focus on selling art during that art fair. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to tips for selling art. Now, there's one more side of it. It's galleries searching for particular artists that they could collaborate with. Now, in order to attract them, you will need to have some kind of tactic, and that video really explains the whole game, and it's really going to help you out in pricing your art before you go to an art fair. So definitely check that out. My name is Dries Ketels. I'm an artist. I'm here to help you out, and that's what this channel is about, you know. And I think that's very powerful. Perhaps you should subscribe. Ciao, ciao.